All right, guys, good to see you. Good morning. If I haven't met you, my name's Taylor. I'm the lead pastor here. Very warm welcome to you that are in the room watching online. Never joined us before. We're stoked that you're here. We've been praying for you, expecting you to come. So glad to see you today. We're in this amazing moment, ladies and gentlemen, in the book of Acts, chapter 8, where we've been studying verse by verse for the last however many months, years, decades. I don't know. It's been a little bit, but it's been amazing. Where what's happening in Acts chapter 8 is Christianity is beginning to get out from beyond its original context in the city of Jerusalem. And so you see, and all throughout church history, the last 2,000 years, this has been the case, right? Christianity is constantly looking for and taking new ground. And we're beginning to see that happen for the first time in a unique way in Acts chapter 8. And this is really important because for many of us, right, let's be real in the church, we prefer a Christianity that doesn't work like that. We prefer a fake version of Christianity that's inward focused instead of outward focused, that's risk averse, that's focused on our own programming and needs and wants and preferences and desires. We prefer a Christianity that's kind of an us four holy huddle type reality where we circle up, lick our Christian wounds, and forget about the world around us that doesn't know Jesus. And so that's the kind of the kind of Christianity often that we want, where my faith in Jesus is a personal and it's a private thing that doesn't really need to come out from me or beyond these walls into the context of the city. And that is so anti-Bible, guys. I don't even know what to say about that, right? But let's go Matthew 28 for a second. The Great Commission, after Jesus raises from the dead, before he ascends to heaven, what does he say? Go into all the world, go into all the nations. And in fact, in the Greek, it's ta ethna. And what Jesus is saying is, I want you to go to all ethnics. Meaning I want you to get out from beyond the realm of what's familiar to you. And the second that the church begins to mission drift away from reaching people for Jesus, what we do, and we're gonna see this again in Acts chapter 8 today, is we actually begin to resist the movement and the ministry of the Spirit. Do you get that? That's really important. The moment that we mission drift, guys, as the church, as the people of God, when we mission drift away from we exist to see Jesus exalted and glorified in the context of our city, we begin to actively resist the ministry of the Holy Spirit. And this is why everything that we do here at New Song has to bleed mission. It has to. This is why we're here in the context of our city. This is why when we get together and we pray, we're constantly praying for people that don't know Jesus. We're constantly praying for Bellingham, for Whatcom County, for an outpouring of the Spirit, for a great awakening and revival to happen here in the midst of our generation, in our day, in our age, and in our city. This is why our small groups, right? We're constantly, and we're just about to launch this thing again. I'm so stoked about that. But in our small groups, this is why if you're gonna be a small group leader this year or somebody that attends a small group, we expect you to stay on mission, right? To actively be reaching out and inviting people that don't know Jesus, unchurched and de-churched people, into the context of your small group. And so this is really important because all over Acts 8, again, the Holy Spirit is constantly pushing people into the city. He's constantly pushing people out into the culture. And so to be the kind of Jesus follower that doesn't want mission, that wants the Christian country club experience, that doesn't want small groups to multiply, that doesn't want more services on a weekend, that doesn't want to be a part of a missional force, that's planting churches and raising up leaders, you are actually resisting the movement of the Spirit. You're saying to God, okay, Jesus, I know that you're on a mission to save the world around me, or around me for you and for your purposes, your glory, but I kind of would rather do something different. And guys, this is really important because every single year around this time, when we launch small groups ministry, we always have people that want to derail us here and do the whole Christian country club thing, and we're just not gonna do it. So don't be that guy. Can we just agree that you're not gonna be that guy? I'm not gonna be that guy, because if you are that guy and you refuse to change, you and I are gonna have to have a conversation about finding you a church where you could go be that guy, because it is not here. Amen? All right, you okay if I talk straight to you today? All right, we're just, you don't really have a choice, you're here. So this is what's at stake, guys, right off the bat, okay? Like, Christianity has always been like my 1.5-year-old daughter. Always taking new ground, always going to new places and wanting to see new things. It's like Lena, she's in this crazy season right now. It's like those toys. You guys know those kids' toys that you have to like wind up and you put it down on the table and it just like hops all over the place, you know, it just doesn't stop, right? That's kind of like Lena right now, okay? Like we'll go places and we'll be at restaurants or whatever, coffee shops, and we'll put her down and her legs are already moving before she hits the ground. She hits the ground and she goes, what's she doing? She's saying hi to everybody. Hey, how are you? What are you doing? What's, you know, like she's just talking to everybody, and people are nice, right? And so they're like, oh, aren't you cute? What are they really thinking though, guys? Where's this kid's parents? Where's their mom, right? And I have to remind my wife all the time that we're the only ones that thinks that it's cute. Everybody else is just super annoyed. But this is what happens, guys, is oftentimes, like that's always been Christianity. And what can happen is the church gets in the way. And so we need to correct that and make sure that we don't do that and make sure that you don't do that. So Acts chapter 8, let's dive in here. So you've got this guy named Philip. And this dude is on fire for Jesus, right? He's by the power of the Holy Spirit, he's literally being used by God to shift cities and entire regions for Jesus. This dude eats, sleeps, and breathes mission. He is a man set on fire by God, and he's being used by Jesus to do some amazing things. So we're picking up our study starting in verse 26. We're gonna read verses 26 through 30 here. And it says this, "Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, 'Rise and go toward the south to the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert place.' And he rose and went. And there was an Ethiopian, a eunuch, a court official of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge of all her treasure. He had come to Jerusalem to worship and was returning seated in his chariot. And he was reading the prophet Isaiah. And the Spirit said to Philip, 'Go over and join this chariot.'" Look at this. So Philip, what did he do? He ran. Philip ran to this guy. And so, right, Acts 8, again, we've got Christianity breaking out into new territory. In the next couple chapters, we're gonna see all sorts of people give their lives to Jesus. Acts 8, we have an Ethiopian, we have an African. Acts 9, we're gonna see a Jewish person give their life to Jesus. And Acts 10, we're gonna see a European converted to Christianity. And this is the amazing reality about the gospel, guys, is he's everybody's Jesus. Right? Jesus is everybody's Jesus. And he doesn't just belong to white people. He doesn't just belong to black people or to rich people or poor people, but Jesus is everybody's Jesus. And so in Acts chapter 8, the Spirit of Jesus is telling Philip, hey, I want you to go talk to that Ethiopian eunuch. I want you to go talk to that sexually altered black guy about Jesus. And it's something that you, a middle-aged Jewish man, would never actually do. And this is what's happening right off the bat, guys. What we have to understand about our text today is it's the Holy Spirit saying, listen, I want those racial barriers surmounted. Like the kingdom looks like people from every tribe, tongue, nation, economic class coming together and declaring with one voice, worthy is the Lamb. Jesus says, go into all the nations, right? Go into all the ethnics of the earth, meaning my message, says Jesus, is not just for people who think, look, and live like you do, right? That's what he's saying. And so the point is, here's where this gets really convicting. If there are people that you tend to look down your nose at, right? That you sort of disdain because of their skin color maybe, their economic status, they're homeless, and you look down your nose at them. Maybe they believe something completely different ideologically, politically than you do, like your crazy coworker who's totally cool with government-mandated COVID shots and handouts, right? They are insane, all right? But also that family member that you have that thinks that Donald Trump is the Messiah and he's gonna get back in office before Biden's term is up. They're also insane, okay? But the point is when we have those people, if you're that type of person that looks down your nose at other people, you know what you're saying? You're saying the gospel is good enough for you if you're a Christian, but not for them. You're saying because I look a certain way, my skin is a certain color, I have certain amount of money, I believe this politically and ideologically, I am better than they are, and I can elevate myself above them and look down on these other people. It's a horrible sin, guys. We're saying we have more value than other people. And that's not how this works. Jesus is constantly, you have to get this, you just saw this. He is constantly pushing back and over those social constructs to reach people that are far from God. Now, let me do an apologetic here on this for a second because this is really important. We're in this season of society of these calls towards social justice, racial reconciliation, Black Lives Matter. The amazing thing about this, guys, is it comes from a good place where we all want people to be treated equitably and fair. But the problem is what you have to realize if you are an atheist, a secular person, you literally cannot get that outside of Christianity. It's just not, it's not gonna work. Let me prove it to you. Because here's the thing. If God doesn't exist, okay? follow me here. If God doesn't exist, if naturalism is true, you cannot say that racism is wrong. And in fact, even Darwin recognized this. We're taught, his most famous work, you're told that it's titled The Origin of Species. But if you look at the long title, it's The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races and the Struggle for Life. Meaning what? If an unguided, naturalistically oriented evolutionary process is how we got here, there are certain types of human beings that are more evolved than other people. And they're the favored and they're the preferred types of people, right? And what's more natural, guys, than the strong opposing and eating the weak? What's more natural than tribalism and teaming together to make sure that our kingdom is established and everybody else is pushed down and out of the picture? It's like that joke. This is so awesome. The dad joke number 1 today, because I got a third on the way, by the way, everybody. So that's crazy. Oh my gosh. Wow. 3 kids. So here's dad joke number 1. All right, so we're just taking the first commandment seriously. Be fruitful, multiply. Come on, man, the church has got to grow somehow, right? Okay, so anyways, so it's like that joke, that little boy, he goes to his mom and he says, Mom, how did we get here? And she's like, well, God made us. And so he's like, oh, that's awesome. He goes to his dad and he says, Daddy, how did we get here? And dad says, well, son, Mommy, she believes some weird stuff. We came from monkeys. And so the little boy, Johnny, goes back to his mommy and he says, Mommy, you're a liar. Daddy said we came from monkeys. And Mommy looks at little Johnny and said, no, sweetheart, Daddy's talking about his side of the family, okay? So I know none of you in here resonate with that, but this is historically, guys, what has given way to realities like Nazi Germany. It's the preservation of the Aryan race above everybody else, and we can cross any sort of moral bounds to do that, to make sure that our race is elevated and others are pushed out and pushed down. If that's you, right, this is where your worldview leads to. That is the naturalist worldview. And your worldview is bankrupt to do any good here. And so, but also, here's the thing, for Bellingham, okay? So I know Bellingham, we're a little bit different. We're a little bit more in the agnostic category of I don't actually know what I believe about God. God is an ethereal kind of out there being. Sure, we believe he exists, but here's the reality. You're in the same place, bro, okay? Because look at this. If you don't know what you believe about God, how can you prove to me that he's not a racist? Right? You can't do that. You don't get to hide, secular Bellingham, behind this curtain of, you know what, I'm gonna borrow from Christianity whenever it's convenient for me to stay in my worldview that actually isn't integrous and doesn't make any sense. How can you prove to me that God doesn't prefer white people or prefer black people or prefer brown people above everybody else? In fact, I was in a coffee shop this last week and I saw this lady, she was sitting there and she had this big thing on her computer that said, the universe is smiling at you. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? Like, the universe sucks, dude. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. And you know why you think that way? If this is you, it's because you're in a 21st century westernized coffee shop sipping your latte. You've got a warm bed to sleep in. You have no concept or idea whatsoever what's happening in Kabul right now for those Jesus followers, those people that are being held captive by the Taliban and losing you have no idea. You think that guy over there right now is like, the universe is smiling on me, right? It doesn't make any sense. Dude, so here's the point. If your worldview sucks, what I want you to do is trash it and get a better one. And this is where Christianity is the best idea in the marketplace of ideas, right? Because what does Christianity say? All humanity, regardless of skin color, sexual orientation, economic status, is the imago Dei, is the image of God. And because of that, just by being a person, you have intrinsic value and worth, and you are worth being fought for. You are worth being pursued. Only Christianity gets you that. If you're of an atheist agnostic worldview, you do not get to borrow from Christianity when it's actually convenient for you. And so let's talk about this Ethiopian eunuch for a second here, because he's a fascinating guy, right? We see his story in verses 27 through 28. What do we learn about him? Look at verse 27 again. He's an Ethiopian eunuch, sexually altered black guy, and he's a court official of Candace, the queen of the Ethiopians, who is in charge of all her treasury. So the dude is the CFO of Ethiopia, right? Like, he's a big deal. He's got a lot of money. He can read, right? We see in verse 28 that he's reading the prophet of Isaiah. Do you know how rare that was in that day? People didn't have the education to read. Like, it was just super rare. He's very sophisticated. He's very educated. He can can read. And in fact, he owns an Isaiah scroll. And that's also something that was very rare. Keep in mind, this is like 2,000 years before the Kindle was a thing, right? And so what we do is we buy books and they sit on our shelves for 5 years and we never read them because we want to look smart. Back then, if you could get your hands on a book, you actually read it. Like what a concept, right? This is literally like being a pastor 101. You just buy 100 books and you don't read any of them. And so Ty loves it when we do that here. But he had an Isaiah scroll. The scrolls were kept in public places of worship and synagogues. They were very rare to come by, and this dude actually has the scroll. So here's this guy, he had made it to the top. He's sophisticated, he's intelligent, he has power, he has money, he has all the resources, he's unbelievably able, he's brilliant, he's got everything. And the question is, how did he get there, right? Because I would imagine a lot of us in this room, we want what this dude had, right? Like we want that. We want to make it to the top. So how did he do that? To get to the top, guys, you know what he had to do? He literally had to castrate himself, all right? You're welcome for the fun conversation going home with your kids. Mommy, what does that mean, all right? Sorry, but it's in the Bible, okay? So like he literally had to castrate himself to get to the top, right? Because here's the thing, and what's really interesting, I found this out as I was studying this last week. The word in the Greek for court official and eunuch is actually the same thing. And so back in that day, if you were gonna be somebody of influence, if you were gonna be a commoner that rose to the top and lived in and worked in the royal courts, the men didn't trust you to work among their women, so you actually had to become a eunuch, right? And so this guy literally castrated himself to get to the top. And that can seem kind of shocking to us, but is it really though? Right? I mean, like really think about it. Like, is that really, because here's the thing, people do this all the time now, guys, right? Like we will do whatever we can to get to the top. It is amazing to me, and this is so heartbreaking as a pastor to see this happen among us. And with like this is, it's so easy to get to this mentality of we will literally kill ourselves to get one rung up on the socioeconomic ladder of success. Like we'll kill ourselves to get there. We just want to get one rung up. $10,000 more a year, the new truck, the nicer house, the more toys, got to get the boat, got to do the kitchen remodel. And this is what we can begin to actually live for, this keeping up with the Joneses type reality. But look at this, in the midst of all of his success, the last thing we realize about this guy is he's not happy. Right? What's he doing? He left his hometown of Ethiopia. He makes this long, hard, treacherous, dangerous journey to Jerusalem, trying to find something transcendental, trying to find, okay, maybe the God of Israel is who I'm actually looking for. Maybe there's something for me there. And he would have told his friends, hey guys, I'm leaving my job. I'm gonna go take this journey over here. Hopefully I make it safely. I know it's super sketchy, and I'm gonna worship the God of the Jews for a second, see if I get anything there. His friends would have looked at him like, dude, you're insane. What are you talking about? We've got temples, we've got gods, you're an idiot, you need to stay here. But this guy, this Ethiopian eunuch, what we learn about him is he is in serious spiritual search mode. This guy is desperate, he's unhappy, and he is searching. This is a man who is seriously spiritually empty. He made it to the top, but he's not happy. And here's the reason why we don't have more people, guys, in super, like serious spiritual search mode. It's because you are still living from that ideology that says that when you get to the top, you will be happy. But for those that have actually made it to the top, they're shouting down at you, I'm still empty, and I'm more empty than I've ever been. Just like you heard the stories up here, right? Like I was trying to fill my life and find happiness and fulfillment and satisfaction in all of these areas, and I got it. I got there where I thought that I was gonna begin to cash in on those realities, and I was bankrupt, bro. And so a lot of times what happens is we live from this illusion of, man, I just got to get to the top, and when I get there, everything's going to be great for me. But for those who have actually made it, their illusion has actually been shattered. And here's the deal. He's a man. This Ethiopian eunuch, he is a dude. And the problem is so often, some like men, we do this, right? Like the altar that we end up rallying around is money and of business success. And that's the altar we worship around, and we sacrifice our marriage and our kids and our family to get it, right? That's the reality of what it means to be a driven dude in the 21st century Western world. But here's the problem. It's that will not fully fulfill you guys. You're gonna wake up one day and you might even make it, but you're gonna get there, you're gonna look around and you have lost everything. And I don't care how much success you have in every other area of your life, if you fail here as a husband and as a father, it's enough to cloud out everything else. And so, here's the interesting thing, because almost more often, the problem today isn't actually pulling men back from being too motivated to accomplish something, but now what we're trying to do is motivate young men away from their mom's basement and the video game controller, right? Like actually, hey, go do something meaningful with your life. Our society, and this is so devastating for me, it's such an amazing opportunity for the gospel and something I really think that Jesus has on his heart for us as young men at this church, is our society has no idea what to do with young guys, right? Like, it's devastating. Everybody knows what's wrong with young guys, but we don't know what to do about it, right? Like, the statistics tell us that young men, they don't want to go to college, they don't want to get a job, they want to suck unemployment dry, they'd rather have a relationship with some fake woman on a computer screen looking at porn than actually preparing themselves for marriage and family and responsibility in life, actually holding down a job. This is the state. Like, we want to delay adolescence now until 30, where you can kind of become a man. We don't have clear pathways to manhood, right? Like, this is devastating. In primitive societies, it was like, you're 13, dude, you're a man. Now it's like, okay, is a boy, does he become a man at 13? Does he become a man at 15, at 16 when he can drive, at 18 when he can smoke, at 21 when he can drink, at 25 when his brain is hypothetically all the way developed, right? Which is debatable. But anyways, right? Like here's the thing. Like, when does it actually happen? How do we actually change this? And so we've gone to culture and we've said, what do we do about this? And everybody's like, I don't know. Sweet, right? But here's the thing, young guys, what you have to understand is Jesus gives you a vision for living that is worth dying for. Here's Philip, guys. He's literally being used by the Spirit of Jesus to shift an entire region. He's a young dude ripping it up for God, man. Like, he literally wakes up with so much purpose every single day of his life. He's close to Jesus. He has taken responsibility. Meanwhile, they say young men in the church spend 10,000 hours from the age of 13 to 19 playing video games, right? Malcolm Gladwell, he's got this statistic, he's got this concept that he calls it the 10,000 hour rule. And it's this idea that you spend 10,000 hours at something and you're a master of it. So instead of literally becoming a professional basketball player or something awesome, a concert pianist, we're putting video game controllers in our kids' hand and saying, go become a professional this. Right? And here's a guy who has taken responsibility. He's stomping hell. He's healing the sick. He's preaching the gospel. He took responsibility, and regions are being transformed. And here's the deal, guys. What we got to understand, I've heard it said that men are like trucks. They drive better with a load. It's so true, right? Like, it's this idea of responsibility. You were created to bear the weight of responsibility, not to run from it, not to shove it, but to actually take it upon yourself and be a responsible person. This is what we need, guys. Men at this church, we need you to be like Philip. We have to say yes to the call of God on our lives, to step into the reality of believing that God can use us to do something like what he used Philip to do. He's called you to lead here at New Song. We need you men. Like, can I just plead with you for a second? We need you to lead our church. We need you to step up and be like Philip and lead prayer groups and lead small groups and actually help us reach our city for Jesus. We need you to lead in marriage. We need you to lead in family. We need you to lead in business and culture and politics. We need you to step up, get outside of the cultural narrative of today that's putting you down, and recognize, and let me put steel in your spine here for a second, with God all things are possible, and you are the image and the glory of God. You are not what's wrong with society. You are called to be used by heaven to bring the kingdom of God to the earth. This is your call as a man. Philip was a guy who took responsibility. He said yes to the call of God in his life. We've got men here, right? You guys are so gifted, dude. You're so gifted. Like, I just love hanging out with you. Like, you're so gifted. You're so resourced. You're so networked. Like, you've got so much potential. And we need all of the best of you to rise up and actually help lead our church. We need you to take responsibility here at New Song, but also in the context of your family, in your marriage. It's this idea of extreme ownership, which we really should have as mandatory reading for every dude here at our church. It's Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, crazy Navy SEALs dude, wrote the thing. It's so epic, guys. Go get it. It will change your life. But in it, it's this idea of like when something goes wrong around you, you don't cast blame, you take responsibility, regardless of what it is. And this is your job, your role as head of household. It's to take responsibility. It's not to back off and say, my wife sucks, my family sucks, I have a horrible relationship with my kid, the culture in my home is off, but it's actually to take responsibility for those realities and get strength from the Spirit to seek God in the place of prayer, to bring yourself under accountable relationships with other godly men, and for us to come together, seek heaven, and say, okay, how do we actually get your marriage, your family back to a place of health, get you positioned for kingdom impact? This is biblical headship, guys, which is this really strange idea that, of course, culture is totally opposed to. But this is the call of God on men, and it doesn't mean that you're given permission by God to be a jerk. I almost said another four-letter word that would have got me in a lot of trouble, but I held heaven, right? So, like, it doesn't mean that we get permission to be jerks. We want that, right? Like, we want to just be able to show up and my way or the highway. That's not the reality. It's not permission to be the domineering, controlling, manipulative force in the home, but to go first in love and of service and of laying your life down for your wife and your children, just like Jesus does for you. And in fact, this is really convicting. I've been thinking about this in my family dynamic the last several years and just the kind of person that I want to be as a husband, as a father. And I've been thinking about this passage in Genesis, right? God creates Adam and Eve goes off and she eats the fruit, and we give, Eve, like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. I can't even believe you did that. God shows up, and where does he go first? Adam. And what does Adam do? He's like, are you joking me? She's the one that ate it first. And he's like, Adam, where were you? Right? Where did you go? And he doesn't go first to Eve. He goes first to Adam. And what does Adam do? He does the same thing, guys, like we love to do. We love to do this. It's the woman. She did it, God. It's her fault. It's the woman you gave me. I'm just over here chilling, walking with you in the cool of the day, doing my best, and it's her fault, right? But here's the thing. God doesn't give us that. Responsibility actually falls first and foremost on the man as head of his household. And that doesn't mean that you and your wife don't co-lead and co-labor in the context of your family, but ultimately, if marriage, culture, and home relationship with kids is off, he looks first to you as the man, to me as the man, and we have to take responsibility for that. And here's the good thing, guys. You want to know the good thing? This is really encouraging. I love this. The Holy Spirit is so for you. Jesus is so for you. Jesus cares about your marriage more than you do. He cares about your family more than you do. He loves you more than you do. And all we got to do is humble ourselves and come underneath his influence and say, Jesus, I don't know what this looks like. Help me. I'm going to make myself accountable to other men. I'm going to join a men's group. I'm going to start building relationships with other men at New Song, and we're going to figure this out together. We need you to be like Philip and believe that Jesus can use you to shift a city. Like, guys, why not us? If he'll do it with Philip, why can't he do it with us, church? Here's the thing. I really think that Jesus is willing. He said yes, right? There's been this question of, God, who are you? Who will you use to see Bellingham impacted, to see the spiritual landscape of our county impacted? And God has looked on us here at this church, not us exclusively, but us. We're included in the Church of Whatcom County. He looks down at us here at New Song and he says, I am willing. I say yes, I will use you to impact the world around you. I will use you as a conduit for my kingdom, my power, my glory. I will use you to see businesses and the business sphere and healthcare and education and public schools and local government. I will use you to see those regions and those spheres of society transformed. But are you willing to say yes too? Guys, what if we could be the kind of people that really believe that we're on the cusp of the next great outpouring of the Holy Spirit and get ourselves positioned to come underneath the influence of the Spirit of God, stop existing for us, and begin to say yes to the call of God to go after the Ethiopian, to go after the dude sitting in the chariot who God is already working on, and partner with the ministry of Jesus to have that word of encouragement, of love, of the good news of Jesus at the right time. Like, can we say yes to the call of God to be used by him to see a city transformed? He's done it before and he'll do it again. And I just got to believe that I'm in the midst of a people that are crazy enough to believe God for the impossible, to believe God that we can see our city transformed, to believe God that we can see the lost healed, to believe God that we can see marriages transformed, to believe believe, God, that we can see the narrative of toxic masculinity overturned and men become their true God-given image bearer potential and lead in family and home and relationship with their kids. I really believe that I am in the midst of a people where we will see God do what we want him to do. And if you're excited about that, you can give me a great big shout today, ladies and gentlemen. The question is, here's the question. How do we get there? How do we get into that posture? You have to have a moment like the Ethiopian guy had, right? Look at verse 30 and 31. Look at this with me. So Philip ran to him and heard him reading Isaiah the prophet and asked, do you understand what you're reading? Guys, what do we say? Yeah. I totally get it. You know, I'm a man. I've got everything figured out. I know how this goes. And it's not just men. This is everybody, right? We're super prideful. We don't like to admit ignorance. We don't like to admit arrogance. We don't like to admit that we need help following Jesus or we need help in the context of our marriage or family. We want to put on this front and pretend like everything's okay. Look at this. It says that in verse 31, he says, the Ethiopian guy says, how can I unless someone guides me? And he invited Philip to come and sit with him. Do you know that you need somebody to guide you? Where does the work of the Holy Spirit happen? In the context of authentic Christian community, where humility is present in the hearts of people. And we're saying, man, I don't really know what this looks like. I don't know how to do this. Come in and guide me. What's he doing? He's admitting ignorance. He's admitting, you know what? I need help. I can't figure this out. I need guidance. I need accountability. How can I understand unless someone teaches me? And this is a really important biblical principle, guys, that we would be very smart and wise to pay attention to, that says God, he actually opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. I mean, think about that. How terrifying is that? That means areas of pride in my life, those are areas where God, the God of the universe, is resisting me. He's resisting you. But he draws near. He gives grace to those that are willing to say, you know what? I don't have this all figured out. I need help. And so the Spirit is working on this Ethiopian guy. He's got this Isaiah scroll because God speaks through his word and he changes lives through his word. And he's reading this passage in Isaiah chapter 53. And this is amazing and so this is God just teeing Philip up to actually have effective witness to this guy. And it says this in verse 32. Now the passage of the scripture that he was reading was this: like a sheep he was led to the slaughter, and like a lamb before its shearers is silent. In his humiliation, justice was denied him. Who can describe his generation? For his life is taken away from the earth. And the eunuch said to Philip, about whom, I ask you, does the prophet say this? About himself or about someone else? Verse 35. Then Philip opened his mouth, and beginning with this scripture, he told him the good news about Jesus. You want to know what I love about that right off the bat, guys? Like, this is such a compelling vision of Jesus. This is ridiculous. The first thing that Philip is explaining to this guy is he's saying, from this scripture, he started and he went on to others saying, let me share with you the good news of Jesus. You want to know the really good news today? The Bible isn't first and foremost a book about you, right? Where you have to be the hero, where you have to try hard, where you have to ascend the mountain of holiness and try hard, do good Christianity to earn your way before God. The Bible is a unified book that's meant to lead you to the statement of Jesus is the true hero. Why is that good news? It's because you're not the hero. You're a disaster of a hero, just like I am. You're a disaster. I'm a disaster. We're all a disaster. Don't try to be your own hero because it sucks and you're going to fall flat on your face and you're going to let yourself down and you're going to fail and you're going to fail others and you're going to screw up and you're going to try hard and you're going to keep looking at porn and messing up and screwing your life up and spending money and losing it all, right? Here's the reality. Jesus is the hero. And this is what Philip is saying. He's like, dude, you've been trying to be your own hero. Let me bring you to this reality of the Bible is first and foremost meant to bring you to him. It's all about Jesus. And this is such a compelling of Jesus in Isaiah 53. He's portrayed as the lamb, right? It says, like a sheep, he was led to the slaughter. Philip is saying it's about Jesus. And so the question is, what does that even mean, right? Because we're like, that doesn't make any sense. In the Old Testament, under the Old Covenant, pre-Jesus, what God had done, and this was an act of grace to keep sinful, broken, fallen humanity living in a measure of his presence. He gave them the sacrificial system of the temple, where they would, every year they would come and they would bring these sacrifices. They would kill the spotless lamb, and it would be used to cover over over the sins of the people. But they're constantly making these sacrifices. The lamb is the substitute for the sin of the people. The people should have been killed for their rebellion against God, and God in his grace and his mercy says, I'll give you a lamb. I'll give you a lamb. But it was never enough. And now Isaiah says, Jesus is the true lamb. He's the true lamb that was slain. And his sacrifice was enough to cover you, past, present, future. We don't need to keep killing lambs because Jesus is the true lamb. And it's this idea, man, that evil and sin in your life, it has to be dealt with. So the question is how? And it's either you pay the penalty or Jesus pays it for you. And this is what the cross is about. And this is what's wrecking this Ethiopian guy. He was empty, right? He was totally empty. He got all the money, the power in the world. He was resourced, right? But the reality is none of those things ever died for him. None of those gods he ever worshiped died for him. And in fact, they demanded that he die for them. Money, affluence, power, fame, CFO of Ethiopia, resourced, educated, sophisticated, the dude. All of those realities demanded, die for me, suffer for me. And this is what's so crazy about Christianity, man, is it's the complete opposite. In Christianity, we see God come to die for you. And that's what's wrecking this Ethiopian guy. And in fact, he was so desperate, he was so broken, he turns to religion, right? He literally goes to Jerusalem and he's seeking some sort of, maybe, okay, I tried all this stuff. Let me try religion now. And what's really interesting, and this also sucks for this guy, is he would have got to the synagogue, the temple, and he wouldn't have been allowed to enter in, right? He made all that journey, came all that way to try and get into the temple. He's turning to religion and he's denied at the front door, right? They didn't let all sorts of people in. They didn't let lepers in. They didn't let eunuchs in. He would have come all of that way just to be turned around and left empty, right? And here's where the gospel is completely different than any other religion or worldview or philosophy, right? It's not you come to the gate and you're rejected. Jesus was rejected for you so you could be accepted. This Ethiopian guy, he's coming face to face with the good news of Jesus. And it's an irresistible love. And it's this idea that scholars call, when they're referring to what was actually being accomplished on the cross, penal substitutionary atonement, meaning that the death of Jesus was substitutionary in nature. John Stott helps us define what that means. And he says, the essence of sin is man substituting himself for God, meaning man putting himself where only God belongs. I'm God of my life. I'm my own boss. That is sin. Every single one of us in this room are guilty of that. But the gospel is God substituting himself for man and God putting himself where only man belongs, which is the cross. And here's the thing, man. Some of you need to give your life to Jesus today. You really need to do this. Like you're in that position of like looking and longing and asking these big questions. And God has brought you to this moment by sovereign grace saying, today is the day that you surrender and you say yes to Jesus. And so what was the Ethiopian's response? He says this in verse 38, he commanded the chariot to stop. In other words, this is becoming the most important reality of my life. I'm not going back to my city the same. I'm gonna stop this thing, shut it down now. I'm on the chariot of my life. I'm moving towards these realities and I'm stopping everything, putting it on hold to get myself back in right relationship with Jesus, to respond to the gospel. And it says this, that he stops the chariot and they both went down into the water, Philip and the eunuch, and he baptized them. Some of you need to get baptized today, dude. Like you didn't plan on this. You didn't know you were going to show up to church and give your life to Jesus, but you need to give your life to Jesus and we got the tank full, so might as well dunk you today, right? And some of you, here's the thing, you have been a Christian for months and for years, and you haven't even been water baptized. Guys, did you know it's a command? Jesus literally says, repent and be baptized. It's not optional. It's not about waiting for your mom or your sister or your brother or your relatives that live in New York to come and watch you. This is about you responding to Jesus. It's about you surrendering to Jesus, making that public statement of, okay, now God, I belong to you. I'm ready to surrender my life to you. This is how you respond to what Jesus has done, is you come come in simple repentance and faith and you say, Jesus, I can't save myself. I'm empty, I'm broken, I'm looking for fulfillment in all of these other areas. I'm thinking that when I get there, I'm gonna be happy, I'm gonna be fulfilled, and I recognize that, dude, I got sin on my life, and you're the only one that can do anything about that. I'm ready to turn my life over to you. Would you stand with me? If that is you, I wanna give you an opportunity to say, I'm ready to surrender everything to Jesus. You guys, yes, you can stand. That'd be great. Thank you. I want to give you an opportunity to surrender everything to Jesus and say, I'm ready to cross that line. I'm ready to be like this Ethiopian dude and say, stop the chariot. I have to get this taken care of. I have to surrender my life to Jesus. He's just too good. It's time to surrender to the irresistible grace that drove God from heaven to a cross so he could have you and save you and forgive you and bring you into his eternal embrace forever. He's the only way. You don't get this any other way. Jesus says in John 14, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one comes to the Father except by me. And if that's you, would you just go ahead and raise your hand? You're saying, I'm ready to surrender everything to Jesus today. I'm ready to fully cross that line of faith. Give everything to him. God bless you, man, in the back. That's awesome. Anybody else? I'm ready to surrender everything. I'm ready to repent of my sin, get filled with the Spirit, become the man, the woman that God has intended me to become. Anybody else? Can we give a shout for this guy in the back, ladies and gentlemen? That's amazing. For those of you online, wherever the camera is, it's actually live right now. I don't know, could be that one, could be that one, could be that one, whatever one. You're online, you're watching, man, get on your knees and surrender your life to Jesus. There's no more important decision that you could possibly make. Reach out to us, we'd love to help you figure out what it means to now become a follower of Jesus. Maybe you're here and you're in that category. If you've been a Jesus follower, you've never been baptized. Dude, it's time to do that today. Come up, let's talk, let's get you in the tank. We'll get you some change of clothes, we got towels, and we'll take care of you. Let's pray together, guys. Jesus, we love you, we thank you. We thank you for what you're doing. We thank you, God, for the reality of the good news of Jesus. I pray that you would shape us by it. I pray, God, that we would be a people that looks through the eyes of the gospel at the world around us, the ideologies around us, the people around us that are completely different than we are, that we might be tempted to look down our nose at and recognize, Jesus, you could have done the same thing to us and you're the only one that had a right to. But yet you came and you took a cross. You laid your life down. I pray that you'd make us a people like that. I pray, God, for those that are surrendering their life to you today, would you fill them with your Spirit, protect them from the evil one. Lord, would they become full-fledged disciples of Jesus Christ that are used, just like Philip, to set our city on fire. In Jesus' name, everybody said. Amen. Hey, guys, thank you so much for coming. If we can pray for you, please come forward. Otherwise, have a great day. We'll see you next Sunday.